So for our next one, this is the other half of operational visibility. This is insights with SIEM integrations. So everyone, please give a round of applause and welcome to the stage, Divakar.
Hi everyone. Okay, so logs are powerful. Thanks Adam for the presentation about the logs. Logs are powerful. And I'm Divakar Challa from product management team. So now we'll talk about operational visibility and insights. So far we talked about logs. So logging and logs empower you to manually trace the issues. So we had discussed like how to troubleshoot the issues, FTP log, SFTP logs, like how to filter, how to see all the columns, how to export and all these things. This is all good. So these are like manually tracing, but this particular topic is going to the next step. Knowing more insights from the logs. That means when I say more insights and more visibility means what happened to your site, what is happening now, and what can happen, we can predict. So let's jump in. So today's agenda will cover basically what is SIEM is, why logs are not enough. So even though they are powerful, they are not enough. So we have to move to the next step. And what are the common challenges and how files.com SIEM integration can uncover visibility, security, and compliance. And we'll talk about reports and we'll have Q&A session at the end. Now let's start with what SIEM is. So how many of you are aware of SIEM or are you using SIEM in your organization? Can you please raise your hands? Oh, okay. 3-4 people. That's good. Okay, for you, you already know what SIEM is. For the rest of the folks, let's take 1 minute to introduce what SIEM is. SIEM means like SIEM. So SIEM is Security Information and Events Management. So it's a platform. So it is not files.com, it is a separate platform. So there are so many vendors out there like Splunk, at least you might have heard about that name, Microsoft Sentinel. So we are talking about SIEM platform. So SIEM platform, what it does is, it collects the logs from all the applications, systems, services within your organization. It can collect all the logs. So when I talk about all the applications means, it doesn't mean that just files.com. It can be anything. So earlier we had a question about the VPN earlier today. Hey, my users are like using VPN and they are logging in. We don't know whether they are like legit users or like compromised users. So those kind of issues SIEM can solve. So we'll talk about that also shortly. So SIEM can collect logs from all the applications. For example, it can be a CRM or ERP or like your IDP or your system management tools like Microsoft Intune or like Jamf or even Epic. Epic is one of the EHR service. So, and like many applications. Your organization might be having hundreds of different applications. It can be on-premise, it can be SaaS applications, it can be some services, or it can be the VPN logs. So every employee connect to VPN to access some internet portals and then upload files, download files. Even SIEM platform can collect those logs. So good that it can collect, but what it does is it analyzes those logs automatically. So earlier what we saw is just logs. We are like manually tracing the problems. But with SIEM platform, it collects the logs, it analyzes the logs automatically. So after analysis, you can build the dashboards and you can create the alerts. So there are like more than 100 vendors out there in the SIEM market. So most of them are modern and some of them are legacy. And most modern SIEM platforms has AI capabilities. That means it can pinpoint the security issues more precisely. Okay? So some platforms are like, you know, Splunk, Sentinel, as I said, New Relic, Sumo Logic, Datadog, there are so many. There are like hundreds of platforms. So we are talking about how we can integrate files.com with these platforms so that logs would be analyzed automatically instead of you doing some manual job. Now that we know basics of SIEM, Why do we need it? We already have logs. Why do we need SIEM platform? The reason is, if you go back, imagine how many types of logs, how many number of logs all these applications generate like every minute. Within files.com itself, we generate logs for automations, syncs, shared links, inboxes, file uploads, downloads, user actions, so many logs. The more data is growing more and the user activity is growing more, the logs are generated more. There are three problems. So there are so many logs. The problem is, how can you identify like what is happening? Is it so? If the files.com is in your like part of your workflow, how can you find out whether it is a normal user action or a security threat? Because looking at the logs, both look same. The security threat and also normal user action look same. You cannot identify because there is no risk prioritization. And so because there are so many logs, without even like reviewing or connecting the dots, what you would be end up doing is just swimming in the data, so nothing else. And another thing, logs are always used for after the fact because something is broken. Some SFTP error happened, or the file upload did not happen, or download did not happen. Then you go to the logs, find out or troubleshoot what is happening. That means checking a fire alarm after the fire broke. So at that time, it doesn't make sense. But if you are using SIEM platform, before the fact, it can analyze the trends because it connected to other applications also in a workflow, not only just files.com. So it can connect the patterns and then it can identify. Most of the modern platform can do this job very easily and intelligently. So these are the common challenges. So most of you are aware, every day we all go through these common challenges. The reason is again the same thing, because there are so many logs. Manually tracing those logs is impossible. So some of these logs are like, these are all the questions, but these are like not technical problems. These are like security risks. These are like compliance requirements. So without knowing these answers, you cannot meet the compliance requirements. You cannot identify whether there is a security threat or not in your site. So some examples are like, who is accessing my site? Who is accessing my data? You cannot keep on looking at the logs, who all are accessing. So when you integrate with SIEM platform, the platform can automatically identify who is accessing, whether it is a legit user. So simple use case is, SIEM platform can identify if I am logged in from Austin, and with the same user, if they are logged in from Europe or like some Malaysia. If they, at the same time, the same user cannot log in. But looking at the logs, you cannot tell because it looks like a regular user login. I logged in both the places. But SIEM platform can detect saying that, hey, this particular user just logged in at 12 p.m. from Austin, and the same user, he logged in from Malaysia at 12:30. How can he travel in 30 minutes? So looking at the logs, you cannot tell that. But SIEM platform can intelligently identify and create the alert and send it to the security team or IT team or the CISO officer accordingly. So these all questions would be answered with SIEM integration. Good, we know that we had problems and SIEM platform can be used. The exciting thing is, so file.com start supporting all integrations with all these major platforms, Splunk. So we have two in Splunk, Enterprise and Cloud. So we support native integration. And we have major player like Microsoft Sentinel, so we support that too, and New Relic, Datadog, and Sumo. So files.com can forward all these logs, whatever we just discussed, whatever Adam showed to you, right? All these logs to these platforms, whatever the platform you choose. And then that platform can automatically analyze these logs. You don't have to worry about it. So we can forward these logs in JSON format over HTTP. Okay, those are technical details. And so this native integration works for more than 95% of the SIEM platforms are there. So there are few legacy platforms which cannot accept this format, like QRadar and like few legacy, they are very old, like 30 years onwards. So they cannot accept this format, but more than 95% we can forward the logs. So if you don't see your favorite SIEM platform in this list, don't worry. So use this, SIEM any provider. So this is available in our integration catalog along with this. So when you use this generic connector, whatever is your SIEM platform, we can forward those logs. So that is super cool connector we have built. So it has a lot of flexibility and you can forward all these logs. Okay. So good that we support integration with SIEM platform, but what is the benefit? So these are some of the benefits, but let me share a real story which happened recently. So we have one of our customer, his healthcare customer is there. So their use case is like they transfer all their patient records from their EHR system to clinics, insurance providers, and their partners. The patient records, when you think about patient records, they are sensitive. Anything is sensitive in the healthcare industry, right? So before SIEM integration, what used to happen is, by the way, they recently integrated with SIEM, but before, what happened was, so whenever there was a failure in upload or download, so they had to dig through all these logs to find out what happened to those failures. And another major problem is their security team always had concern, hey, I have all this sensitive data, but I don't know who is accessing the data. Because it is impossible to check the logs every day to see, hey, this user is correct, this user is correct, this user, yeah. So you cannot check those logs every day. So they recently had integration, I think they had integration with Microsoft Sentinel, and they started sending all these logs to Microsoft Sentinel, and they built the dashboards. They created the alerts. So the way they created the alerts is whenever there is some mass download happens, or like any user outside from US, somebody is like trying to access the data, send me a text message. Then CISO officer will get a text message, then he will find out what is going on. Earlier he used to check the logs, now he is just checking the text messages. So that's simple it became with this integration. So these are some of the examples like what you can benefit from integration. Okay, so now these are some example dashboards one of the customer built. These are like not from their platform. So this is to mimic how they built it. So these dashboards you can build using any of the SIEM platform, whether it can be Splunk or Sentinel or New Relic or like any Logarithm, Exabeam. There are, as I said, like there are more than 100 players are there in this market. So you can build these dashboards. The cool thing is these SIEM platforms provide templates to create the dashboards. You don't have to sit there and work for hours and hours to build these dashboards. Just pick a template, say that, hey, here is my log, I want this kind of graph. So it will generate. So in this example, what it is, so how many automations we have, like whether it is success or like how many automations skipped, how many sync success and failure. Instead of looking at the logs, I just can look at this pie chart saying that, hey, I have these syncs are success, but these are like failed. And I can just click on it and I'll directly go to the log if I want to know more details. And I can find out like who is using desktop app versus FTP protocol versus web dev versus SFTP, web, APIs, blah, blah. And how many users are using, who are the top users, where are they logging in from, what interfaces they are using. So you can build hundreds of dashboards using SIEM platform. So it all can, you can do this like within a couple of hours. So once you get the real-time logs from files.com to SIEM, these dashboards can be built. So this is file transfer trends. Earlier, like we were discussing about the trends, right? So I think she was asking about, hey, I was getting files every day at 9 a.m. Can I get those files tomorrow at 9 a.m.? Building these dashboards can help you find out, hey, every day so you can configure policies in SIEM saying that every day at 9 a.m. I'm getting some files from this particular vendor. Let me know, send me an alert tomorrow if I don't get any files uploaded to this folder. What SIEM platform can do is it can go and find out, keep watching for these logs. And because we already configured the rule in SIEM platform, this particular folder, if upload action is not API, send me an alert. So you can do that. already with SIEM platform. Okay. And you can build the dashboards, what are the daily upload trends, downloads and trends, and also deletes. So this is one of the area usually security team get concerned. People just delete the files. They may be important. So you know by building these dashboards. You can build this kind of dashboards also. So this is a geo map. This tells where your users are. Again, this is from SIEM platform, not from file.com, because we are sending all the logs from file.com to that platform, and you can build all these dashboards. So here another story about recent customer. One of our customers used to tell to us, hey, we don't even look at the logs because all of our users are in US. Nobody can access our files outside of the US because they put all the security protocols, all the security settings, IP whitelisting, all those things they are doing. But later on, for a different reason, they integrated with SIEM, and I think they are using Splunk Enterprise. So after they integrated with SIEM and they built this GeoMap dashboard, then the security team really got shocked to see, you see some users in Europe, they are accessing their site. There is few users from Malaysia accessing their site. And they troubleshooted, like, who are the users? Luckily, they are legit. They are like not unauthorized users. So they are like employees, US employees traveling abroad and trying to access the files from there. But it opened their eyes. They were like thinking, oh, our site can be only accessed within US. But these employees are traveling to different companies using VPN to connect to US site, but you don't even know because they are using VPN. But since they connected SIEM platform with files.com, and also they collect the IDP logs, for example, they are using Okta, they collect the Okta logs, they collect the VPN logs. So it correlates everything, and then it builds this dashboard. Hey, these users are like, these are employees and like traveling, and then they are accessing the sites. Isn't it cool? Okay. So it is easy to set up. You don't need a developer. There is no complexity over there. What you need is your SIEM platform's URL, the destination URL. So every SIEM platform, they provide an URL as long as they are accepting content on HTTP endpoint. And they provide a token. So in this example, I'm just showing Splunk, but this can be anything. So it can be any of your favorite SIEM platform. So you just pass these two values, and we also give option to pass additional headers, but most of the cases this is not required. And whatever the logs you saw earlier from Adam's presentation, all those logs can be forwarded to Splunk immediately, real time. So once Splunk getting the logs, then you can start building the dashboards and alerts. That's it, done. So you don't have to keep on looking at the logs and what is going on. So now we have one more small topic here about reports. We discussed about logs and we discussed about SIEM integration. So SIEM integration is mainly about automatically finding out what is going on with your platform. What if there is some security investigation or audit happened in your company saying that, hey, I want to know what was your system state on April 30, for example. Looking at the logs, what you see is the latest logs. Then you have to go back to April 30, you have to find out what happened on April 29th, what happened on 30, what happened on May 1st, all these things. Then you have to manually create some report. So instead of doing all those things, you can simply use export feature. So this one we just talked from Adam. So this is actually the reason why exportable logs available is for the compliance purposes. So reports provide audit trails to meet HIPAA, GDPR, SOC 2, and SOX compliance requirements. So that is the reason we provide all those reports, and in the same format, whatever, whether it is UTC, I know there was a problem like UTC versus current time zone, but there are reports. So those can be used for the point-in-time records. So if you export a report on April 30, that means it shows exactly how many users are there on April 30, and like whether they logged in or like login history, what permissions they have on April 30, all those details would be there. Then you can back up that report. It is a CSV file, right? You can back up. April 30 you can export, May 1st you can export, April 2nd you can export, May 2nd you can export, it's like that. So you don't have to do this manually from a web interface. You can write a small script using our command line. Every day at 9 a.m., so go and get this report and store this in a particular folder. The command line utility can do that for you. So it is as simple as that. So these reports are available in all tables, whatever you see in files.com web application. If you log in as administrator, so we have more than 100 tables in the web application if you log in as administrator. So all those tables can be exported and you can save the backups. Particularly for healthcare, legal, and all the businesses, right? So one of the other reason they may need for the forensic investigation or the security compliance. So you may need these reports and start using this feature. Okay. So this is the last one. Just to recap, files.com brings complete visibility. So the topic which I started was operational visibility and insights. Visibility and insights we are providing in 3 ways. Logs, discuss that. So logs provide real-time events, great for manual tracing. When something happens, you can go to the logs, find out what is happening. Okay. SIEM integration, automated log analysis. This is also real-time, but it is automated. You don't have to analyze anything. So the SIEM platform can analyze for you, okay, automatically. Great for detecting threats and sending alerts. With this, you cannot send alerts, but SIEM integration, you can send alerts, build dashboards, so many things. So if you don't have SIEM integration, or if you are not using SIEM platform as of today, consider using reports. So reports is point-in-time summaries. On April 30, what happened? So you can just look at the CSV file and then see the system changes, setting changes, everything. So great for audits and compliance needs. That's all. Any questions, please?
Hi, Luke from Invita Healthcare. I was just curious if we, basically if there's any best practices or guidance around how to integrate a SIEM platform with multiple child sites.
Oh, best practices? Yeah, good question. So we don't send child sites logs from the parent site. So every site logs their own logs. So parent site has their own logs and child site has their own logs. So if you are like integrating to a common SIEM platform, you can do that as of today. You just have to configure from the same 2 sites, you just have to put those URLs like which we discussed. 1 second, yeah, this one. So you have to, from the parent site, you have to do the setup, child site, you have to do the setup. So both would be forwarded to Splunk. So Splunk can identify because we pass site ID somehow in some of the logs. Like some additional information we pass, so based on that. Or like, so Splunk can, you can create a couple of instances in Splunk or like any SIEM platform, so you can separate out or you can merge. So it depends on the SIEM platform, whatever you use.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, please?
Hi, I was curious, are there any other SIEM systems that you're looking to integrate with, specifically CrowdStrike's next-gen SIEM?
Which one specifically?
CrowdStrike's next-gen SIEM?
Not at this moment, but if our...
I know you can use DNE, but CrowdStrike, then you have to build a parser for it. There's a bunch of other steps that kind of go into it, so I was just curious.
No, so if you use the generic connector, this one, it is exactly same as like native integration. It will work.
Right.
So, you know, but we can validate if you want.
On the CrowdStrike side, you would have to create a parser file for your data coming in so it knows how to read it.
Parts of the file?
You have to create a parser file, so whenever, in CrowdStrike, if it's not already built into it, or integrated, I should say, you have to build your own parser file. So the data that you are sending will go through that parser file so the system knows how to read it.
Oh, okay.
Which is true of other systems as well, not just CrowdStrike. So you don't just set up the connector and it goes. There's actually another step that has to happen. So.
Yeah, so if the CrowdStrike are like middle layer, if they can accept files on a HTTP endpoint, we can forward. So what we are doing from file.com is, it's just a for rows, like just, we just, okay. You provide valid connections as long as the system is reachable with this destination URL in the token, whatever is the system, whether it can be CrowdStrike or something else. This endpoint is reachable with this token, we start sending it. So it's CrowdStrike has to accept that data.
It's how they can read what you're sending. A parser file takes what you're sending and translates it for the system.
I think it can do, CrowdStrike can do the translation. So I'll stop by to learn more what exactly is the CrowdStrike doing. So then I can identify.
When you send data to it and it receives it,
yeah.
It then has to take the parser file to interpret your data so the system knows what's coming into it. Or it can get rejected. Field's not right, format of the file not right. It's like transformation of the.
Oh, okay. So it only accepts specific format of the files.
Sometimes creating the parsers is a bit of a pain in the neck. If you haven't done it before, we can't go to you and say, hey, my parser's failing, then it's a back and forth between CrowdStrike,
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, we can certainly identify. So it is similar to Microsoft Sentinel. Microsoft Sentinel also does not accept just raw log files. It should be in a specific format.
Yeah.
So we support that as of today because it is popular. But yeah, if your use case requires CrowdStrike, yeah, please talk to us. We'll try to solve that problem. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.